Good day, ma'am. So today po, I will discuss what is the joint arrangements. So first po, we need to identify what is the meaning of joint arrangement. So joint arrangement is an arrangement of which two or more parties have joint control. So dito po sa meaning pa lang po, naka-specified po na of course, we need to have a two or more parties po para magkaroon po ng arrangement. So the essential elements of this joint arrangement po is first is the contractual arrangement and the second is the joint control. So the contractual arrangement po, it defines po as what is the purpose po and activity and operation of duration of the arrangement. So kailangan po dito po sa arrangement, kailangan between the parties alam po nila kung ano po yung purpose po ng arrangement po na ito, ano po yung activities, and also the duration po nitong joint arrangement po na meron po sila. Second is the decision-making process. Of course po, it is important po to have a decision-making process po in this organization po, in every organization. So, kailangan po lahat po ng parties po is alam po kung ano po yung magiging role po nila, kung ano mo po yung mga gagawin po nila in this joint arrangements. So, the third one is the capital or other contributions required of the parties. Of course po, every parties po is meron po itong mga ibibigay po na contributions or mga capitals po. So, dito sa joint arrangement po, and dito sa contractual arrangement, dito po nila sasabihin or i-share po sa bawat parties sa mga ka-arrange po nila kung ano man po yung contributions or mga capitals po na ibibigay po nila. And the last one is how the parties share assets, liabilities, revenue, expense, and even profit or loss po relating to joint arrangements. Of course po, mas magiging wide na po yung iisipin ng bawat parties. So, kailangan po, alam po nila kung paano po yung hatian ng profit or loss, paano po yung assets po nila, yung sharing po sa liabilities and also sa mga revenues, or even kapag may mga profit or loss po, paano po yung magiging hatian po nila. So, dito sa contractual arrangements po, dito nila makikita kung paano po yung magiging process and paano po yung bawat ibibigay po ng bawat parties. So, there are two types of joint arrangements. First is the joint arrangement, joint operation, and the second one is the joint venture. So, ano nga po ba yung meaning po and difference po nitong dalawang to? So, una po is yung joint operation. So, yung joint operation po, ito po is a joint arrangement whereby the parties that have joint control the arrangement have rights to the assets, and obligations of the liabilities relating to the arrangement. So dito po, sobrang malinaw po yung meaning po niya. Itong joint operation po, ito po yung mga yung isang joint arrangement po, which is yung mga parties po, meron po silang rights sa lahat sa assets po nila, sa obligations po ng liabilities po regarding or relating po dun sa arrangement po na meron sila. Well, the joint venture naman po, it is a joint arrangement po whereby the parties that have joint control of the arrangement have rights to the net assets of the arrangement. So, kung doon po sa joint operation, yung mga parties po is meron po silang rights po sa assets and obligations of the liabilities. Dito naman po sa joint venture, meron po yung bawat parties po, meron po siyang rights po doon po sa net assets po ng arrangement. So, what next po is, what is the joint control? So, the joint control, the contractually agreed sharing of control of an arrangement. So, ito po, contractually. So, ibig sabihin, doon po mismo sa contractual arrangement po, and also sa contractually po nila, nag-agreed po yung bawat parties po na of course magkaroon ng sharing of control of an arrangement. Of course, sa isang organization po, it is important po to have a control po. So, dito, sa joint arrangement po na ito, dito meron din pong joint control na tinatawag para mas maging organized din po yung bawat organizations na meron po sila. So, which exists only when decisions about the relevant activities require the unanimous consent of the parties sharing control. So, no single party obtains leverage over another in respect of voting rights over the financial and operating decisions. So, dito po, no single party po talaga na leverage over another po, because this joint arrangement or joint control po, it respects po everyone around the group, everyone around the parties po, lahat po ng parties po, it respect lahat po ng voting rights po na meron po sila. So dito, it exists when all the parties sharing joint control over the arrangement act collectively in directing the activities that significantly affect the returns of arrangement. So, para po mas maintindihan po natin, meron po itong characteristics. So, una po is joint control is the sharing of control of arrangement, which exists only when decision about the relevant activities require the unanimous consent of the parties sharing control. The sharing of control may have been agreed by a way of binding arrangement. So, dito po sa last po, di ba sinabi po, may have been agreed by way of binding arrangement. Of course, as a part po sa joint arrangement po, it is important po na laging nagbabind po yung bawat suggestion. It's also bawat parties po in order to have a bigger or a solution po behind the problem po. So dito, itong joint control po is a sharing control po ng bawat individual po or bawat parties po sa loob po ng joint arrangement. So an entity is a party to an agreement shall assess whether the binding arrangement gives all the parties or a group of parties control of the arrangement collectively. So, dito po, kailangan po, meron isang entity po talaga na mag-check or mag-assess po whether yung bawat parties po ba, meron po bang kanya-kanya pong control po sa bawat arrangement, or collectively po ba yung bawat na-assign po or naibigay po sa bawat parties. So, of course, kailangan po talaga collectively yung maibibigay na control of arrangement po sa bawat parties in order to avoid po yung hindi po pagkakaunawaan or pagkakaroon po ng mga kaguluhan po sa isang organization. So, kung na-assess po na po nung isang entity po na lahat po ng parties is meron na pong control of arrangement po. So dito, control the arrangement collectively po. So joint control exists only when decisions about the relevant activities require the unanimous consent to the party po. So dito po, sinabi nga po dito na magkakaroon lang po ng joint control if kailangan po talaga ng decision po regarding po sa anonymous consent, kailangan po ng consent po, no? Dito. So, dito lang po mag-e-effect po yung joint control po. So, in a joint arrangement, no single party controls the arrangement on its own. A party with joint control of an arrangement can prevent any of the other parties or a group of the parties from controlling the arrangement. So, joint arrangement po kasi ito, no? Kailangan po talaga, hindi po siya pagmamay-ari ng isa lang. Kasi nga, from the word of joint po, two or more parties po, di ba? Yung mga nandito from the previous meaning po ng joint arrangement. So, dito po, as a group po yun na kanila po. Hindi lang isa lang yung may-ari or isa lang yung nagdidemand na sa kanya to. So, dito po, lahat po nung mga joint parties po, sila po yung nagmamay-ari or nag-own dun po mismo sa joint arrangements po na meron sila. So, an arrangement can be joint arrangement even though not all of its party have joint control of the arrangement. So, very, very malinaw po, no, na yung joint arrangement po is considered po na talaga siya is an arrangement po even though hindi po lahat po ng parties have a control of the arrangement po. So, this standard distinguishes between the parties that have joint control of a joint arrangement, joint operators, or joint venturers, and parties that participates in but do not have joint control of a joint arrangement. So, dito po, no, sobrang linaw po ng pagkakasabi po na hindi porket po wala po yung iba na control po dun sa isang organization, hindi na po matatawag siya na joint arrangement. Still po matatawag po siyang joint arrangement. So next po, an entity will need to apply judgment when assessing whether all the parties or a group of the parties have joint control of an arrangement. An entity shall make this assessment by considering all facts and circumstances. Of course, it is important po no na magkaroon po ng assessment po sa isang joint arrangement po. And also, kailangan i-consider lahat po ng facts and circumstances po in order to have proper judgment po sa isang joint arrangement. So, if facts and circumstances change, an entity shall reassesses whether it still has joint control of the arrangement. Of course, kapag na-assess po lahat and parang may problem po, syempre kailangan i-reassess po ulit um, ng entity po na iyon in order to have po ng malinaw po na ebidensya or malinaw po na analysis po tungkol po sa joint control of the arrangement. So, example of this is A and B, the parties are two entities whose activities include the provision of many types of public and private construction services. Entity A is a private sector of entity. So, yung entity B naman po is a government-owned. They set up a binding arrangement to work together for the purpose of fulfilling a contract with the government for the design and construction of a road between two cities. So, si Entity A and Entity B po, nag-bind po together, nag-bind ng arrangement po para mag-work po sa isang construction of road between two cities po. So, the binding arrangement determines the participation shares of A and B and establishes joint control of the arrangement, the subject matter of which is the delivery of the road. So, the subject matter po dito is the delivery of the road. So, si A and B po, may kanya-kanya po silang joint control. Doon po sa mismong arrangement po nila. So, the joint arrangement will have no further involvement once the road has been completed. So, yung joint arrangement po, wala na po siyang involvement po once na natapos na po yung road. And also, the road will be transferred to the government at that point. Kasi nga po, government project po siya. So, the parties set up a separate vehicle, which is the Entity Z, through which to conduct the arrangement. So, yung Entity Z po, siya po yung magkakandak po ng arrangement po na yan. So, yung Entity Z po, on behalf of A and B, enters into the contract with the government. In addition, the assets and liabilities relating to the arrangement are held in Entity Z. The main feature of Entity's legal form is that the parties, not Entity Z, have rights to the assets and obligations of the liabilities and the entity. So, dito po yung sinasabi niya po dito yung have rights to the assets and obligations of the liabilities of the entity po is yung of course si Entity A and B, not the Entity Z. Parang si Entity Z lang po kasi siya lang po yung magkakandak po ng arrangement po na meron po sa Entity A and Entity B. So, next po is the binding arrangement. May additional information po dito sa dun po sa arrangement po ni Entity A and B. So, A, the rights to all the assets needed to undertake the activities of the arrangement are shared by the parties on the basis of their participation shares in the arrangement. So, letter B, the parties have several and joint responsibility for all operating and financial obligations relating to the activities of the arrangement of the basis of their participation shares in the arrangement. So, si parties, yung both parties po, meron po silang several and joint responsibility po sa lahat po ng operating and financial obligations po relating po doon sa activities po na gagawin po ni Entity Z. So, the surplus or deficit resulting from the activities of the arrangement is shared by A and B on the basis of their participation shares in the arrangement. So, lahat po ng magiging deficit or surplus or lahat po ng magre-result po doon sa arrangement po is magdi-division or mag-share po si A and B doon po sa through the arrangement din po na meron po si A and B. So, for the purposes of coordinating and overseeing the activities, A and B appoint two project manager who will be an employee of one of the parties. After a specified time, the role of the project manager will rotate to an employee of the other party. A and B agree that the activities will be executed by the employees on a no gain or loss basis in accordance with the terms specified in the contract with the government. Entity Z invoices the construction analysis po doon sa arrangement po between A and B. So, the joint arrangement is carried out through a separate vehicle whose legal form does not confer separation between the parties in the separate vehicle. So, the assets and liabilities held in Entity Z are the parties' assets and liabilities. So, tulad nga po ng sinabi po kanina dun sa situation po no, na naka-indicate po dun sa arrangement po between entities A and B po, na lahat po ng assets, liabilities, and also lahat po ng financial and operating na expenses po na magagamit or mako-consume po ni entity Z will be shared by entity A and B. So, dito po, naka-specify din po dito. So, this is reinforced by the terms agreed by the parties in their binding arrangement, which state that A and B have rights to the assets and obligations for the liabilities relating to the arrangement that is conducted through its entity Z. The joint arrangement is a joint operation. It is not a service concession arrangement. So, yung arrangement po na meron po sila is a joint operation po. And dito po, tulad nga po ng sinabi ko kanina, meron po kasing binding arrangement po between A and B. So, doon po, naka-state po talaga doon lahat po ng rights po between the assets, liabilities, and obligations of the liabilities relating to the arrangement po will be conducted by entity Z will be shared by entity A and B. So, A and B each recognize in their financial statements their share of the assets, property, plant, and equipment, accounts receivable, and their share of any liabilities resulting from the arrangement, like accounts payable to third parties on the basis of their agreed participation share. Each also recognizes its share for the revenue and expenses resulting from the construction service provided to the government through entity Z. So, lahat po doon no, naka-specify po lahat doon. So, yung analysis po mismo, yun po is it explains po how does the construction or how does the arrangement po between A and B mas naging firm po through the arrangement po na meron po sila. So, dito po na lahat po ng property, plant, equipment, accounts receivable, lahat po ng mga accounts payable to the third parties like that po is shoulder po and nag-share po si entity A and B. So, of course din po, pagkatapos po lahat po ng revenues, lahat po ng expenses po na meron po yung lahat po ng revenues po na meron yung entity A and B will be shared also by them. So, that's all po. Thank you so much for the listening.